Good afternoon, everyone. This is Shraddha Raval, and welcome to Speaking Tree Live. And first, I wish you all a very happy International Women's Day. And on this occasion, we have Niti Joshi. Hi, Niti.
Hi, Shraddha.
Yes, she is a clinical psychologist and a psychotherapist. She has worked with emotional wellness initiatives, and she is working with many women all across India. And she is also helping her clients who are dealing with mood swings, depression, anxiety, and many other mental disorders. So, today on International Women's Day, we will be discussing all these questions, especially Indian women who are dealing with emotional breakdown and anxiety, depressions, and what is the significance of International Women's Day in this context. So, let's start, maybe.
Yeah, sure.
Yes. So I'll start with my first question that what are the very common issues that women are facing in their day-to-day life, and how do you help them to overcome all these?
Right. I think I'll talk about the major mental health issues that come across in therapy when we see clients. The most common is depression, anxiety, PTSD. Then you would also nowadays see a lot of cases with vaginismus and postpartum depression. So basically, you would see, a chunk of women coming with symptoms of low mood, anxiety, a history of trauma where they're not able to, function adequately as they would want to. And then again, issues with their sexual health, with their sexual life, with their relationships, all coming in context from a psychosocial perspective. That means that these illnesses are not only psychological but also social, in terms that the social issues that we face, the abuse, the harassment, the oppression, the suppression that we face, it also kind of adds up to your mental health, or your mental issues or your mental trauma. And that's the chunk of cases that I see, especially here that I'm working with the emotional wellness initiatives. The major chunk of my patients, of my clients, are women from all parts of India. And depression and anxiety and PTSD especially is something that you would see present in almost every female client, right?
Very well said. So, I would like to dig deep into these questions that what are the, I mean, how do they start initially? I mean, how one can actually notice that if they are actually going through all these mental disorders, because the problem here with all the people normally that they do not know that they are going through a particular mental disorder. So, what can be how one will know that they are actually going through something and they need to deal with it seriously?
Right. That's an amazing question, I believe. I think there are two parts to it. One is, when do I know that, maybe I'm going through something, and when do I know that I need to seek help for it, right? So first, when do I know that I'm going through something, maybe depression, anxiety, PTSD? I think the very starting signs you usually notice is something that is easily noticeable for the person is anxiety and low mood, because anxiety is so high for a lot of people. That is the first thing you notice, that okay, something is going on in my body and in my mind. Again, low mood. One very common symptom that is, that people will notice and come up in therapy is lack of motivation. I don't feel like doing anything. I used to love, going out, riding a bike, meeting friends, but now I don't. So that is one sign that, you're withdrawing socially. Similarly, people around you can also notice changes in your behavior, your mood, your daily activity. So there are patients who have, family members telling them that, for the last 2 weeks, you have been a little low, that you're not talking to us. Maybe, your work isn't going as well. And that's how you know that, something is changing. Not always change is bad. Sometimes it might be a better change, but you would realize that, so, for example, after a breakup, you might feel sad, and that's natural. But if that sadness is not going away for a month or two, that is when you need to seek help, right? When you go through a breakup, you talk to your friend, you feel better, right? You are able to move on with your daily work. You might feel the grief of the breakup, but again, you're able to function. But I believe the very important, sign of knowing that maybe now I should seek therapy or professional help is when your daily activity of living are dysfunction, right? When you're not able to go to work, go to college, go to school, when you're not able to talk to people around you, connect with them, when you're not able to take care of your own self, of your own hygiene, of your own, skincare routine, or things like that that you used to enjoy or used to be involved in. Those are the signs you need to keep an eye out for. Okay, that maybe this is something that's happening for the last 1 week. I've not been able to get myself to take a bath, or I've not been able to, talk to my friends, not be able to enjoy my work. And maybe this is time I need to take a step back and ask myself, am I okay? How am I feeling? Do I need to talk to somebody, be it a friend, mother, father, anybody, or a professional? The second part of the question, of course, is when should I seek help, right? I believe you can seek help whenever you're ready to. You don't necessarily have to have depression, anxiety, PTSD, or any mental illness of sorts, because mental health in itself is something really important. And if you like we say in Hindi, durghatna se, your precautions are better than uh, a bad.
Precautions are better than cure.
Right,
Yes.
exactly.
Durghatna se dev bhali, yeah.
Exactly. So if you're able to take care of your mental health pehle se hi, then there's a possibility you might not progress going towards a mental illness, right? And again, in today's world, I think we are now open enough as a country, though we haven't reached a better level of progression, but again, we are now open enough to talk about mental health. And taking therapy, I believe, uh, you can take it whenever you're open to taking it, not only when you're feeling sad. If you want to work upon yourself, you can come out, talk to a counselor, a therapist, and know. And sometimes the only goal for therapy is also self-awareness. So there's no right time to seek therapy, according to my opinion.
Okay, that means feeling sad. We can feel sometimes sad, but that is okay. But if it is like going on for a long period of time, and if we are suffering, that is the time to actually seek help.
Right.
I
I
would
think
also, yes, I would also like to hear, tell our viewers that they can ask their questions as well, related to mental health or anything. Here we are, having discussion on International Women's Day, so we are open to your questions as well. So I'm moving to the other question, and that is, if we see, even now, we say that beti bachao and beti padhao, that educate girls, which is great, because that is the only sector of society which was not getting right education and health related things. So, but one more thing, that a woman, even if she is working, even if she is independent, what she faces the same, I think, criticism, same level of treatment, I should say. I mean, the society behaves in the same manner, even if she is educated or not educated. She has to deal with the same kind of relationship problems as well. So here, my question is, it is not just for girls to educate, right, but also the men society, because our society is made up of men and men both, women both, right? So here, not only promote the girls' education, but the men's education. So what are your thoughts on this?
Right, right. I think I would agree with what you're saying, that yes, working on female empowerment is important, but we also need to make sure that the society is open to the idea of female empowerment. They're receptive to the idea of empowering female. And I believe that, no one is really working or really teaching men to catch up to empowered women. How do they deal when their partner is empowered enough where, they demand you to divide responsibilities at home? And like you say that, independent women who are working or who are educated still feel, still face the similar issues that they used to face maybe 20 years ago in the society. I personally believe that when you talk about independence, it's not only financial independence, or it's not only the ability to make money, but also the independence of decision, the autonomy for taking decision. Because Even now, many women, they might be able to earn something, but they're not given the autonomy to spend their money, to invest their money on their own will, right? And again, when they come back from work, they're always asked or assume that, they would be the homemaker as well, right? So I think two very important shifts need to be done in the society, where one, females are given the autonomy to make decisions, not only financial, but personal, career wise, personal health wise, be it about marriage, be it about kids, be it about where to invest money, what house to buy, what city to live in. It needs to be a decision of both the partners, right? Rather than it just being a decision of a male or even a female, right? So right now, what we're asking for, and I believe, we're not asking for a lot as females. We're just asking for a little bit of equality, a little bit of autonomy on our own self, on our own life. And the other change that I think that needs to be made is, so when you see women as essentially homemakers, it also kind of, gives an idea that, even if she goes out and works and earns money, she's still going to come home and do all the chores, right? But now that women are earning money and they are financially contributing to the household, I believe it's time that men, the male counterpart, contributes to the household chores, and the responsibilities are equally divided, not only amongst the partnership, not only amongst the couple, but also amongst the family, right? So especially when we talk about India, like we're talking right now, a lot of families, they live in a nuclear setting or a joint setting. There are rarely couples who, even after marriage, live alone, right? When you live in a nuclear setting, it is at this point of time when both the partners, both the parents are working, it is important that you're able to divide your work, your household chores amongst the partner, husband, wife, amongst the in-laws, mother-in-law, father-in-law, and also amongst the children, the daughter and the son. So that bachpan se hi, since they're a kid, they're able to understand that household chores or making home or homemakers aren't girls, right? Girls aren't supposed to do everything. It is something that all of us need to do as a unit to survive and to, live a happy and healthy life.
Okay, that means from the childhood, we need to teach our children actually that particular work is not the responsibility of a particular person. It family works when each person works equally and responsibly, right?
Exactly.
So yes, here my question, I have studied history where I have studied about Indus Valley civilization, about the status of women. Then then even the then status of women was as equal as that of men. So through a long time period, if we look back at history, only there were the people who were freedom fighters or the kings. Mainly they were men. There were very few females across our history if we look back. So what do you think would be the shift or in the psychology of the people that women accepted the decline of their status and men started becoming overpowering the other?
Right, right. I think, first of all, I think a historian would be a better person to reply to this question, but I'll do my best as a psychologist. As much as I've heard or read about history, I believe that, there was a time men and women were considered equal, but as we evolved, survival became a very important thing. Survival and need for power, right? And the things that were strengths for females, like, their ability to nurture, their strength of inclusion, their strength of compassion and empathy, it started to be viewed as a weakness or vulnerability, right? So things took a turn where masculine qualities like, conquest of war or fighting or need for power became more important than feminine quality of nurturance, love, care, and inclusion and compassion, right? Because at that point of time in history, we were also starting to talk about private lands, right? Property in such. And property was always viewed from men as something that they need to gain power, right? And that's how the idea of, not letting your mother be a part of the land or be the owner of the land started. Now you would also see a shift in today's time that people have now started registering their properties on the name of their mothers or sisters, daughters. But earlier, that's how it started, as far as I know. And the major qualities, the feminine qualities of nurture and inclusion, they started to be viewed as weaknesses, as vulnerabilities, right? Though I don't believe that either men or women are superior, but I do believe there are some basic differences. But those differences doesn't essentially mean that one has to be better than the other, right? And when this happened in the past, I think what happened, because humans, they adapt, right? We are the most adaptive beings, and that's a quality, but sometimes also weakness at times, because that adaptation doesn't always have to be very healthy. And I think the way females at that point of time adapted was they kind of stopped playing to their strengths, because they also started seeing that as a vulnerability, right? So they stopped seeing nurturance, inclusion, empathy, and compassion as a strength, rather as a vulnerability. And we, as a class of females, we stopped seeing our power. We stopped using the power that we have within us. And I mean, females have a lot of power. It's only, a matter of fact that we are able to use it or not. We're able to get in touch with our inner power or not. And I think that, uh, even in today's world, the word emotional is used as something that is a weakness, right? That this person is very emotional. But I personally believe being emotional, being in touch with your emotions, makes you very strong, right? Somebody who is in touch with their emotions, know how they feel, how they can modify and be, regulate their emotions. I think they are one of the most powerful beings on the planet. But then again, that's my view of seeing things. The world in the starting, I think, had a very different view. However, I am, now maybe we're able to see a shift in that perspective, where now we are giving some importance to emotions and giving some importance to the nurturance and the compassion and inclusivity that female as a gender portrays, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So related to that only, like you were talking about that women adapted and somewhere it was their weakness as well. So related to that, it is, women in general feel very guilty for leaving their kids who are working. How do they can get rid of this guilt even when it comes to mental health?
Right, right. I think even I have a lot of clients in therapy that do talk about feeling guilty when they prioritize their kids over themselves, or when they don't prioritize their kids over themselves, right? I think one thing that is a systemic problem here is, again, females are not given the autonomy to think about themselves as humans. I think that is the biggest issue here, that since we're born, we're always told that, you are responsible for the family's honor. You are responsible for your husband. You have to take care of your in-laws. You have to take care of the house. Nobody tells you to take care of yourself, right? Now that that shift is happening, where you're going out, earning money, buying things for your own self, the values you might want to leave behind, there is a conflict, right? That I've been told that my value as a mother is kids come first, but I want to also, think about myself. So that conflict happens. I think one way, I would not say get rid of the conflict, because getting rid of something that's so deeper, something that is intergenerational, is very difficult. But I think one thing to process it, accept it, and move on with your life is being aware that this is where it's coming from. Why is the guilt coming? Where is it coming from? Ye jana is also very important, right? So first, knowing that yes, there is a conflict between my values that were taught to me from, my family, and the values now maybe I want to take on as an independent woman or an independent wife or mother, right? Seeing that conflict, recognizing it, and then asking you, what can I do about it? can I make it that maybe I am also a priority and so are my kids, right? So we are, as women, from a very little age, we've told all or nothing, right? So we're told it's your kids or it's nothing, right? So now we need to adopt a thinking which is also called both and thinking, right? Where both the things could be truth, where it means I love my kids and I also love myself, right? So adopting a thinking which allows you to love your kids and also love yourself and also love your work, right? So where earlier you used to look at yourself, females essentially would used to look at themselves as daughter, wife, mother, daughter-in-law, essential roles, right? But now we are these four things. We would want to be these four things, but we also want to be maybe a teacher, a therapist, right? A journalist, a photographer, a dancer, an actress, right? So why is it that this one role of being an actress or whatever profession we choose is in conflict with the other 4 or 5 roles that we were taught from the childhood, right? So the important thing is, I think, to make, establish a harmony between all these roles and view ourselves essentially as somebody who is mother, daughter, wife, and also whatever profession we're doing, right? And also a human being, right? Who's allowed to make mistakes, feel guilty at times, feel sad at times, not take care of your kids for a day or two. It is totally fine, right? So I think one more thing about dealing with guilt is learning to forgive, right? Learning to be self-compassionate, learning to be curious about why are you feeling this way and what can you do about it. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think the role of family also comes over here when it's about, when she will not feel guilty about what she is doing for herself. So, how can family members rally around women who are going through a mental health issue, if she feels this way? So, what will be the role of the family here?
I think family, at least in India and collectivistic cultures, has a lot of, big part to play in both the contribution to your illness and both contributing to your wellness, right? It's their decision or it's their way of behaving that would either contribute to the illness or the wellness. I think what families can do, one of the thing is being aware, right? Because I believe even when I was a kid, my family was not aware about what mental illnesses are, right? Until unless I started pursuing psychology, nobody knew what actually depression is. We had heard about depression, but hota kya hai? What is the reality of depression? Nobody knew. So I think one thing is being educated and being aware, right? Another thing is being open to the idea of mental health and mental illness, right? Because you would also see clients, especially, now that I'm practicing, I see a lot of females coming in and telling that, I can't tell my family that I'm seeing a therapist, right? And that in itself is a very big issue to deal with, because one, you're struggling with your own issues, two, you're wanting to seek therapy, but three, you have to hide everything, right? So how do you teach your client acceptance when they're hiding so many things from their families, right? So I believe that awareness and openness to the idea of mental health and mental illness is the very first step that we as a community needs to take, not only families per se, but we as a community talking more and more about mental illness. And in terms of, about a client who comes in with family who wants to help, a very important thing we do is psychoeducating the family, right? Telling them about the symptoms, the illness, where the client is coming from, what do we think could be the factors that are contributing to her or his illness, and then helping them. At times you also make family members co-therapists, right? Where they kind of take the patient home and help them, deal with whatever issues they're facing. So be there as a constant support that a therapist cannot be. And I personally believe that, especially in cultures like India, if families are involved in therapy, or even if they're not involved, but they're open to the idea of seeking help on mental illness, it does a lot of good. And it kind of accelerates the therapy process in itself.
Okay, means talking about what you're feeling in the family is very important.
Right.
Usually, what happens, we do not talk to our parents, our family members. We go outside, and sometimes the knowledge could be what we get from outside people, could be right, could not be. So, it is very important for a family to talk about even the weakest points, right?
Right,
That
right, exactly.
so we have many questions coming up, and viewers are very free to ask their questions. So my question here is, can couple therapy help with bringing more equality in the relationship?
Definitely, definitely. So we at the emotional wellness initiatives, we do have a couple therapist and other therapists who do couple counseling. And I think one of the major idea behind couple counseling is helping both the partners come to a consensus where they're able to make their own rule book, their own relationship rule book, where they're able to break the stigmas they're coming from, the values maybe that aren't coherent now in the relationship, and come to a consensus to ideas in relationship, rules in relationship that works with both the partners. Especially now, that we talked about a while ago, that men are not taught to catch up to the female empowerment, and that leads to a lot of discord in relationships, right? Because men are essentially coming from a patriarchal idea of relationships, and now that females are getting empowerment, going out, earning, trying to be independent, the ideology clashes, right? And that's where couples therapy comes in, and helps both the partners to sit down and talk about it in a healthy way, take in account both the parties thoughts, values, ideas, not trying not to view those ideas as essentially right or wrong, but just different, and then coming to a consensus in terms of how can we take this relationship further, what are the values that we want to have in this relationship, right? Not only as an individual but also as a couple, as a partnership. So how do we move ahead? And essentially that is what couples therapy is all about, right? Making your own rule book, making a safe space in the relationship, making proper boundaries. And yes, I believe it helps immensely to the clients.
So one more question regarding this that I have is, of course, every relationship is different, and every relationship will have their own principles and whatsoever. But according to you, what could be the basic, we can say, the principles, values one should have in their relationship, either with themselves or with their partner?
Right. I think that's an amazing question, and I think that's something a lot of people struggle with in terms, how do we establish a common ground where both of us can coexist healthily, harmoniously. I think there are 3 4 values that are really important. The very first is respect for individuality, right? Where both the parties respect the other person for who they are, you know starting from the gender to the, their background, what ethnicity they belong to, what race, what country, what religion, what socioeconomic strata as well, right? What background in terms of education, what profession. So respecting the other person's individuality. Second thing is, again, compassion. I think that is something that's lacking in today's world a lot. In today's relationship is compassion, because once you're compassionate and you're open to understanding the other person's point of view, a lot of conflicts that exaggerates to violence and abuse could be maybe controlled and modified and mediated, right? Third is, again, setting boundaries and respecting those boundaries. Again, I think something that is very very prevalent in our culture is having either enmeshed boundaries or very rigid boundaries, right? So either we are like this or we are like this. We don't know how to, right, We don't know how to harmoniously come together and coexist with each other, right? So either we talk about ya to main ya koi nahi, or we'll be like, okay, whatever you say is okay. But healthy boundaries talks about taking account what both the parties want, taking account your emotional, your physical, your sexual boundaries, right? Where you talk about no means no, not only in sex but in other terms also, right? So no means no when somebody's tired and they tell you that I don't want to go to the market, or I don't want to go to a party with you, that also means no. So no means no is not only for sex, it's for other areas of life also. And exactly, that's why establishing those boundaries and also respecting those boundaries. And I think the fourth is trust. That's something very important, right? Being able to trust the person, and trust in terms that, because in today's world, we're all a little paranoid about the idea of, the other person cheating, using social medias in different ways, being on dating apps, but establishing a baseline trust where you are able to ask the person, even if you have any suspicions, right? So having suspicion, trust doesn't mean you would never have suspicions, right? Because we are humans, we might feel insecure at one point of time, but being able to confront the person in a healthy way, ask them, I feel so and so, is this right? What do you think about it? Doing that. And the last value is communication. I think if you have an ability to healthily communicate in a relationship, that relationship, I believe, will go a long way, right? If you're able to be assertive, if you're able to open your heart, open your mind, talk about things you like, dislike, talk about things, that happened in the past, that you want to be, the things that you aspire in the future, the relationship, I think, will essentially become your safe place or your home. But if you're not able to communicate, which is an issue with a lot of relationships, where even in couples therapy, the couple would come with the idea of that, we're not able to communicate, and when we try to open up, there's a lot of fight, right? So that means either one or both the parties is not open to the idea of taking information, and rather they're listening only to react, right? So there you establish the idea of taking turns in communication, giving the other person an opportunity to speak their mind, and not drawing conclusions, not drawing inferences, rather understanding what the other person is actually trying to say, right? So these are, I think, according to me, these are the 5 values that, if taken in account, would essentially help a lot of relationships. But then again, every relationship is different, everybody has different problems, and not all these 5 values are not enough for everybody to have a healthy or a successful relationship of sorts.
But yes, being honest about who you are will
Right,
definitely help to open up and to know each other, right? So
right.
we have many questions coming up. I'm moving to the other. It is, do you think mental health needs to be taught now in school itself, right?
Definitely, definitely. I think the short answer is yes, definitely yes. And a little long answer is that, like I said, if we teach our kids from the very beginning that, there is no gender role, chores are to be divided among all the genders. Similarly, if we teach our kids from the very beginning what social intelligence is, what emotional intelligence is, what are the emotions that we feel, how do we feel them, where in our body do we feel them, and what do we do about them, right? And also that emotions are a part of life. I think it will, this whole ideology will do a lot of good, because I think that was something that was missing in our generation as a whole. And as we became adults and we started understanding emotions, it becomes very overwhelming, that, oh my god, there are so many emotions, so many colors in life, how do I cope with it? But if we teach these coping strategies, these skills in school, I think it will be a little easier to, grow up and deal with challenges that life throws at us.
Yeah, because when we are adults, we do not know how to deal with the situation outside because we do not know how to deal with the what I'm feeling right now, right?
Right.
So if we will start it from the very beginning of our life, will create the base to actually handle the situations in life and be
Right.
confident, right?
Exactly.
So, yes. So, can you talk about habits that should be inculcated in daily life for good mental health?
Right, right. I think one thing that is very important is that we don't have to see mental health as something separate, but rather a combination of your physical, your psychological, and your social health, right? So mental health will essentially be improved is if you're feeling good physically, if you are feeling good psychologically, emotionally, and socially, right? So some habits that I think really help in, getting your mental health in check and also improving your daily emotional health are one, having a good sleep schedule, something known as sleep hygiene. I would appreciate everybody who's watching to go out and read about sleep hygiene and read how to make a sleep schedule. It is not something that's really complicated. It's something that would only take 5 minutes to make, and it would improve your daily life immensely, right? So having a good in place sleep schedule, having a habit of organizing your day in the morning, right? Planning and organizing your day, cleaning out your workplace. Cleaning out doesn't mean that clutter is not okay. Clutter is completely fine. But cleaning out in terms where you know what is going to happen when. Because when you're able to plan your day and there is less uncertainty, the level of anxiety and the level of confusion will come down. And again, you will automatically feel better about your day, right? Because even if you have like a big test coming up, at least you'll know that it's coming up. It won't be a surprise for you, right? Again, working on your physical health, working out. You might, a lot of people might know that working out secretes hormones in your brain, happy hormones that, lightens your mood, makes your mood better. Doing that, again, keeping in check with your emotional health. Something that I usually call is having a self-care toolkit, right? A toolkit that would help you be in touch with your emotions and that would help you ground when you're feeling overwhelmed, right? So safety toolkit or a self-care toolkit is nothing but things that helps you ground yourself, that helps you feel a little more calmer when you're overwhelmed, when you're anxious, when you're stressed. Having that. And I think something that even I do is sitting with yourself at least 15 minutes a day, every day, and just checking in on, how did your day go? How did you feel? Was there something you didn't like? Was there something that triggered you? Was there something you really liked? So, checking in about the negatives as well as the positives, being grateful for the positives that were there in the day, and processing the negatives that were there in the day, right? So this kind of a practice would essentially help you, one, be in touch with yourself all the time, and two, if you start noticing that there are a lot of negatives that are happening, or maybe I'm perceiving, maybe you would also realize that, okay, maybe I should talk to somebody, right? Maybe it's not enough to deal with it on my own. Maybe I need help. So I think these are some habits. And then again, practicing mindfulness, meditation, that a lot of people in India have now started doing, even young people have started doing it. That also helps a lot in maintaining a healthy and mentally healthy lifestyle.
Yeah, exactly. Means becoming your own friend, becoming before becoming friend of someone else. So be
Right.
your own friend first. Like you talk to your friend when he or she is not well. So in the same manner, we have to sit with ourselves and talk to ourselves,
Exactly.
whatever happened, and give advice to ourselves. What if someone else would be in that situation? What would you do? So that would be helpful, right?
Right.
So we have a couple of more questions, and then after, as we are moving, we will be ending the session for today. And my this question is, how can we get rid of the taboo around mental health and make others see that it is just like a physical ailment?
Right. I think India as a country is progressing towards the idea of getting rid of that taboo. But I think it is, again, it's a systemic issue. It is not an issue for you and me, but it is an issue for the whole system in India, right? So the change, again, needs to be systemic. where we as individuals can try and make people aware about mental health. We can talk about, we can advocate mental health services, seeking help, therapy, counseling. But there needs to be a bigger change in terms of policies, in terms of laws, in terms of, insurance that should be available for seeking mental health services, right? So these kind of systemic changes are also required. But I think on an individual level, we can all at least try talking about it on social media and also in our personal life. So I see a lot of people talking about it on social media, but I don't see a lot of people actually talking about it in their personal lives with their friends, right? So I think one thing that you can do as a person from any whatsoever background you come from is talking about mental health with your family, with your loved ones, with your friends, and not just talking about it as a concept, but talking about it as something that is omnipresent, right? So not just saying, mental health is important, but saying and asking, how are you feeling? Are you feeling fine? Do you want to talk about anything? Right? That is how you will essentially be able to not get rid, but at least reduce the stigma and taboo that is present in our society.
Exactly. In itself, not just how are you in a general manner, but for actually how really you are, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that will be helpful. So we are moving to our last question, and this will be, what message would you like to give women to really take their mental health seriously? Any final tips?
Right. I think one thing that I heard a couple of days ago, Prachi, the co-founder of the Emotional Wellness Initiatives, we were talking about something, and she said that, she talked about a quote saying that whatever we need to heal is already within us. And I really, really, it inspired me. And I want to say to all the females, and not just females, all the genders out there, all the women, all the men, all other genders, that you are capable of healing. The only tough part, the very tough part, is the first step that you need to take up. Once you're able to take up that step, all the therapists in India are there to help you. You can come up to anybody you want. You can come up to us at the Emotional Wellness Initiatives, and you can seek help. It's only the very first step that you need is to come out and ask for help. After that, you will get adequate help here or there. And again, I believe whatever you need to heal is within yourself. It's only your ability, whether you want to reach for it or not.
Absolutely. I mean, listen to your own calling,
Yeah.
right? It's always there. So
Yeah.
I would like to thank you so much for your time and all the points, advice that you have given us today. And thank you to all the audience who have given their time to this discussion. And we will be looking forward for more sessions like this, Niti. And thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you so much.
Happy International Women's Day.
Same to you. Happy International Women's Day to everybody who's watching.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much.